From Lalate News headquarters in Santa Monica, this is the Midday Report on Lalate.
It's a big midday here on Home LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022. Live and direct from the shores of Santa Monica, California. In this incredible recording, we're going to go over the big money that Joe Biden reassured American people overnight you're going to be getting. It's called the Build Back Better Act, and it's going to pass. Those incredible checks of the Build Back Better Act detailed in the State of the Union address last night, and Americans will get lots of it, upwards of $40,000 to $60,000. But first up, before that is CR for Stimulus. And CR for Stimulus is the incredible opportunity to put a check into the continuing resolution just a few days away. All the latest details on that. Plus, SS 300, the opportunity to raise your benefits up $300 a month. It's impacted by inflation. And who determines inflation? The Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jay Powell, spoke minutes ago about what he's going to be doing with the first of 5 FOMC meetings in the next 5 months. It's breaking news, and guess what, folks? It's really great news. Then, the price of gasoline surging overnight, and again surging since this morning's broadcast. Where's crude oil now coming today, at the time of this recording? It's out of control, and what are the opportunities to solve the situation? Then we turn back to the situation on the ground in Ukraine. I stand with Ukraine, and in this recording we'll look at where we are right tonight, this afternoon, and today, as Russian troops deployed by the Kremlin, deployed by Moscow, are now outside of town, but stalled. And what does that mean for the resistance in the Ukrainian towns? All the latest comments by President Zelensky and the push to ensure that the Russian advances do not work. I'll have the latest details from the ground overseas and the latest anticipation of the events happening in the next 48 hours. I stand with Ukraine, you stand with Ukraine. A special edition of Home LA, going over your big money at home, how it's impacted by the world events in the first half of this video, and the second half of this video, going to the battleground of what's happening on the front in Ukraine right now. The details, the breaking news, everything you need to know starts right now. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day, whether you're watching the show at 11 a.m. or later in the day at 7 o'clock. You're watching it from the shores of Santa Monica, California. And guess what? The President of the United States addressed the American people overnight in the State of the Union address and reassured the American people that the Build Back Better Act is going to get passed. He said actually more than I anticipated him to say. In fact, I didn't anticipate him to even mention the Build Back Better Act, even though it's going to pass. He reassured the American people that all those incredible checks in there are going out. And I'm going to go over the latest details about those incredible checks in there that pay you a lot of money. Then we'll be turning to CR for Stimulus, the first opportunity to get you checks before Build Back Better Act. And then we'll look at SS 300, impacted by Jay Powell and his moves to curb inflation. But minutes ago, breaking news, you're hearing for the first time live on air as Jay Powell spoke about where inflation will be modified by the Federal Reserve in 5 of 5 meetings these next 5 months. Breaking news, and guess what? It's really good. It's exactly what I anticipated him to say, especially with that first meeting just days away. Then, we'll be looking at the big money that viewers are getting right today. And another of you got $5,000 to $10,000 overnight. Have you been getting thousands of dollars from this channel daily? Well, I'm going to show you how to get it. It's coming up later in this video. And if you're new to Home LA, it's a hybrid show. The first part of the show goes over your money back at home and the impact of the world events. And then we turn to what's happening at home in Ukraine. In Ukraine, we'll go over the latest details tonight as we see Russian envoy tankers stalled on the side of the road, out of gasoline, out of food. And what does this mean for the towns of Ukraine as they wait for nearly 50,000 more Russian troops coming closer? All the latest details in this recording and what's going on across the globe. But let's first go into the incredible Build Back Better Act. The Build Back Better Act, the fourth stimulus recon, reassured by the President of the United States in the State of the Union address last night, saying naming it by name, and indicating that everything in there will happen. Now, we're going to go over each of these incredible provisions in there, what the president didn't say, what he did say, my prediction about what he was going to say, and why he actually said more than I actually anticipated for him to say. Everything in Build Back Better Act is passing, folks. The President of the United States reassured the American people in the State of the Union address overnight. At least $15,000 to $60,000 of checks with 3 clusters and 3 add-ons. Let's look at those 3 clusters and 3 add-ons. Stay with me for Afternoons Lalate at 3 o'clock tonight, brand new show, and Evenings Lalate, a special 1-hour broadcast where I go over all the incredible checks and the breaking news. It has been one of the most watched shows on the internet in the last 3 days. The 1-hour special report, Evenings Lalate, nightly at 5 o'clock. In that first cluster, we have hazard pay, got in there. Earned income tax credit for my essential workers, 1 more year. $4,000 of elder care, got it in there. The checks for the children, $3,600. Checks for seniors. Checks for the school students, $550 check, Pell Grant. Need to repair a home, you got those home repairs in there as well, low-income community. And then you got in there the $4,000 of elder care for elder people and $4,000 of care for young children. There are 3 clusters of checks and 3 add-ons of checks in the Build Back Better Act, and they're all going to get passed, already passed in the House, and will be passed in the Senate. So what is the first add-on of checks? It comes from here in Southern California, from the shores of Santa Monica, and it's from Maxine Waters. Money to buy your first home. Incredible. There's a little bit less than $25,000. This is money to buy your first home. Don't you want it? I want it. Everyone wants it. There's a little bit less than $25,000 given from the federal government to the seller at the time of escrow. It's huge. The first of 3 add-ons of checks got in that Build Back Better. That will be passed. The president told the American people overnight in the State of the Union address. Let's go to the second cluster. Home repairs and paid leave. Paid leave reassured to the American people in those statements by the president overnight. He actually name-dropped paid leave. And also home repairs. These are to weatherize your home. Weatherize your home every time that Mitt Romney yawns during the State of the Union address. Oh. Now let's go to that second add-on of checks. That second add-on of checks is even better. That second add-on of checks is the incredible sums of money that are needed across the board. And those second add-on of checks include the incredible $250 billion of free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. Bob Casey got it in there after the president made a campaign promise and got that incredible provision in there. And what is it? It's a little bit less than $250 billion of free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. Wow, that is huge. Now let's go right into that third cluster checks. Those third cluster checks are where we find real, true deliciousness. In that third cluster checks, what do we have in there? We have the money for the seniors and the free internet. Wow. In that third cluster, we have free internet for all. If you want it right now, you can get it from Second Stimulus. Reach out to the volunteers on the community page of Lalate. They're featured in the commercial break coming up in just a second. But also in this third cluster, my goodness, so much great stuff. They have in there checks for farmers, checks for independent contractors, and then checks for seniors. 2 checks on the House, 3 coming on the Senate side. Yes, it's great. On the House side, they got the Medicaid gap fix and also the hearing. And then on the Senate side, they got the dental, vision, and lowering the eligibility age of Medicare. And Joe Biden actually name-dropped this senior aid in the Build Back Better references during the State of the Union address last night. Now, the third add-on of checks comes from those senators. Senators have a lot of checks to add in there that the president says will happen, will go out. He's ready to send them out. He's ready to send them right today. And the third add-on, you know what it is? It is MSC. MSC, monthly IRS stimulus check. Senators represent that they're putting it in there. 10,000 of viewers have been told by those senators that they're putting it in there, and they're going out. Let's go over all the details of how much they are, how much you get, and who gets them across the board. MSC is checks that are added to the Build Back Better Act, which already has $15,000 to about $60,000 of checks for my viewers. If you're on SSI, SSDI, single, adult, retired, working, not working, you generally qualify for these checks, low income or middle class. Now, how much are these MSCs? Who get them? The legislators represent that if you got a third, you get a fourth. That's pretty easy, isn't it? Let's recap. Single individual, 75,000 less, you get it. Married couple, 150,000 less, you get it. Double it, because there's two of you. Family of four. There's our family of four. How are they? How is that family of four doing today? They're just enjoying the beach, aren't they? Family of four, quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, you would get it as well. Adult dependents also get it. It's not income. It's not taxable. It's offered on a nationwide basis, and guess what? It's not California stimulus. California, we get an electric surfboard instead. And to that one viewer said, my fiance says you have to pay it back. No, but look at the engagement ring return policy. I think you're within the 30-day window. Move quickly. Now, this is one of many checks that would be added to the Fourth Stimulus Recon, the Build Back Better Act, and there is a lot of other checks as the senators represent they have to add in there as well, but there is an opportunity to get you a check sooner than that. And that opportunity was inherently almost name drop last night in the State of the Union address. The president said, give me some more money for COVID testing. Did you hear that part of the State of the Union address? What was he referring to? You have to actually watch my videos really detailed to get a glimpse of what he's sort of saying. It's CR for stimulus. CR for stimulus. Remember last week I told you that CR for stimulus has like $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds in there, and we're lined up perfectly. And the president was trying to take some of that fund for COVID testing, and the senator said, no, we're not going to give it to you. He sort of said, I want some of that money again last night. Joe, we already said, no, you're not taking some of that money for the CR for COVID testing. You've gotten $6 trillion or $6 billion. That's a lot. I think it's $6 trillion. You can get it from somewhere else. So he was a little jabbing, and he said with a smirk in his face. I caught it. I didn't find it funny, though. Stay away from our $1.5 trillion discretionary funds, Joe. Let's go with that incredible CR for Stimulus 1.0. CR for Stimulus is the effort of this channel. They made history in 2020, and it's back on, baby. What is a CR? What is CR for stimulus? What the world am I talking about? Continuing resolution is called a CR. A CR is done every 3 to 6 months to fund the federal government. It's a bill. It's bipartisan support. It's small. It's quick. It's fast. And in spring of 2020, we had gotten a first stimulus check, used it up, needed more money. And then we needed a second stimulus check. And we heard about negotiations that continued for 11 months between Nancy and Steve Mnuchin. No deal. And so I came up with the creation on this channel. Put a stimulus check into something else. Let's use something that's small, inherent deadline, bipartisan support, goes out quickly, just around the corner, December 2020. It's a continuing resolution. I said CR for stimulus. Put a stimulus check in there. Well, 5 weeks ago on this channel on Saturday morning, I said, do you want to bring it back? Because we're looking at Fourth Stimulus Build Back Better Act. It's been, 11 months. Let's get a check out sooner. And viewers said, let's do it. Today, the latest details is that everything is lined up perfectly. A continuing resolution is lined up for a March deadline. And that March deadline has $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds in there. Good. $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds, folks, is enough for a $2,000 stimulus check. Great. Bipartisan support? Yes. Republicans and Democrats? Yes. House and Senate? Yes. So what else could be at issue? I have the latest details after the commercial break. But actually, no, let me go right to them right now. Let me not even tease it with the commercial break. Let's go into it right now. The great news is that everything that's in there is allocated perfectly. And while Joe may have teased us last night saying he wants to take some of that money for COVID, that's not happening because we've already had that addressed by Congress last week. So what do we need to do as a family? Purple Power community. I support Ukraine. You support Ukraine. We also advocate for our money back at home. What should we do? If you can't see, it's there we go. Let me get a little. It's blue and then yellow on the bottom. Beautiful heart. Is that you need to advocate to those legislators right now. And advocate to them the following message. Be very clear. Hey, you got a continuing resolution. And that continuing resolution is early March. You have an inherent deadline. You got $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds in there. The discretion is at the discretion of Congress, of the discretion of the cabinet members of Joe Biden, including Janet Yellen. Give us a $2,000 stimulus check of that discretionary funds. Very, very simple. We're not asking for extra money allocated. You already have the discretion. Just don't spend the money on COVID. Don't spend the money on a park or an electric surfboard. Spend the money on us. And that is what is at issue. Doesn't mean that we're doing anything against Build Back Better. In fact, we're supporting Build Back Better. You can take it up a notch when you make that phone call, because you want to really be making those phone calls to those legislators right now. We're in a time crunch. And you want to say, hey, I support Build Back Better. I heard the president address it last night. I support him. I support Build Back Better. It's going to get passed. We're going to get those incredible checks, but we need money right now. It's been 11 months. There's inflation. There's gas prices. LA's going to cover them in the second half of this video. We need a check right now. Get it out the door. That's the latest details. More about CR for Stimulus 1.0 on the Afternoons Lalate 3 o'clock brand new show today. And we have a special 1 hour broadcast. It's been a hit show lately, the 1 hour telecast. Brand new tonight, a 1 hour special on evenings at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. All right, let's go into CR for Stimulus 2 and 3.0. These are the economic pieces of legislation, House and Senate, Republican, Democrat. No inherent deadline on them. I'm going to feature them tonight a little bit more, but they're not teed up right at the moment. What is really teed up is SS 300. And guess what? We got breaking news about that coming up right now. The breaking news about SS 300 is that Jay Powell, your head of the Federal Reserve, is trying to bring inflation down. SS 300 is based upon tying your benefits to inflation when inflation is high. And I've been telling you that we were going to really watch like Purple Hawks to see what Jay Powell is going to say on Capitol Hill today, this week, about his plans for bringing inflation down before Joe Biden swaps out COLA for inflation. Well, I have the breaking news comments right now, and they are huge. The great news is that Jay Powell said exactly what I thought he should say. And what did he say? I have the latest details on what's going on with SS 300 and Jay Powell's breaking news. Plus, I'll be looking at the price of Brent crude. It is surging out of control in the last 2 hours. It's higher than yesterday. It's higher than yesterday morning. It is literally out of control. And what can the president do? Plus, we're back on the ground on what's happening in Ukraine. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, we'll be watching what Vladimir Putin's next move is right now. I support Ukraine. You should as well. We'll have the latest details from the battlegrounds and what it means internationally, the twists and turns of the events by the minute, by the second. I'm going to cover them and look at what the international price of gasoline is feeling as the situation is unraveling as we go into almost the second week of battle. Those details and more coming up in the second half of this video. But first, if you need money, here's a little bit about the community page. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LA Daily for the excitement of the new LA live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LA at 9 a.m. Home LA returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LA at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LA Late. And the excitement continues right now on Home LA, second part of today's breaking news. I stand with Ukraine. The situation at the time of this recording, made just about 11:30 p.m. Pacific, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here today, is that the situation for Brent crude and gasoline prices are out of control. What are we looking at right now? We're seeing a massive surge. Yesterday, at the time of this recording, Yesterday, I had told you I was shocked that we had gone from 101 to 105. Today, we're trending at 106 to 113, a price per barrel of gasoline. What are we right now? On the latest details in the second half of this video. Then we'll be looking at what Joe Biden can do for that situation and what's unfolding back on the ground in Ukraine and how it impacts your wallet and what Vladimir Putin's next move is, well, and what our response is to today. Then we'll be going into more about your big money and how you can get that big money across the board. We got a big second half. I'm excited you're here. But first, I want you part of this incredible family. Subscribe. You're watching Lalate, the number 3 most watched financial news channel in the United States. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video and consider becoming a member. Do not miss the 3 o'clock afternoon show. It's a big one today. And of course, our new hit, massive hit, 1 hour special report broadcast at Evenings LA at 5 o'clock tonight. The latest details on the Build Back Better Act is the President of the United States last night name-dropped the Build Back Better Act many times. In fact, going into yesterday's recordings, I said no less than 4 hours yesterday on recordings, don't expect Joe Biden to mention Build Back Better. Don't have him expect him to mention any of the provisions or the checks. Maybe just hear him say economic agenda and leave it at that. He went much further. He said, you're going to do Build Back Better. It's going to pass. He name-dropped the provisions, he name-dropped some of the checks, and he actually mentioned a lot more detail than I ever expected. What were some of his comments? I'll feature them tonight on Evenings LA. The great news is that when we look at the Federal Reserve, Jay Powell, we were watching to see whether Jay Powell was going to hit inflation harder, even in the occurrence of what's going on right now with Ukraine. The situation right now is that Jay Powell didn't do that. Thank goodness. What's at issue? Your benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, and veterans benefits are to be raised up, says Joe Biden. The way you raise them up is replace COLA, your current benchmark, with inflation. Inflation is a high number. We know that. You want to swap it for COLA to inflation now when inflation's at its highest point. I've been right on point for nearly 11 months on where inflation is going to go, is going, and will be going. Last year, Jay Powell said it was going to be 1% to 2% in December last year. I said wrong. He said it was going to be temporary transitory. I said wrong. Guess what? It came in I said it was going to be 8% and was not going to be temporary. I was right. It came in 7.5%. Then I said it was not going to be temporary. I said it was going to stay high. Well, his Fed governors, like one, Mueller in Santa Barbara over the weekend, said we're staying about where we are right now. So at the time of this recording, we're still tracking at least about 8% inflation. That's why you want to swap out from COLA to inflation right now with Joe Biden for your benefits. What would this do for you? Immediately, your benefits would go up $200 a month right away. SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits. Then inflation is likely to track at about 4% later this year. That'll give you another $100. That's why you want to do the swap right now. What's at issue? We can't keep inflation high, so we have to fix inflation. Does Joe Biden fix inflation? No. This guy, Jay Powell, your head of the Federal Reserve, he fixes inflation. How does he do it? He raises interest rates. When? Once a month at 5 meetings over the next 5 months. The first meeting is in a few days from now. It's called the FOMC meeting. So we didn't know what he was going to do. These were the equations before Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. 5 meetings, 7 spikes. 5 meetings, 5 spikes. 5 meetings, half basis points. 5 meetings, quarter. We were really worried because we didn't know if Jay Powell, now in view of Vladimir Putin causing supply chain disruption, oil issues, was going to stay the same or pivot because world economies are a little bit disrupted at the moment. So Jay Powell minutes ago had the incredible comment, which was the implications for the U.S. economy are highly uncertain, and I will be monitoring the situation closely, obviously. But he goes actually on to say a little bit more. He basically says that the likely path for rate hikes at the moment, which is all he can do, he can't, no one knows what Vladimir Putin's going to do, but the moment is going to be a little bit more open to where we are cautiously at the moment than aggressive if inflation gets worse later on. We're going to avoid uncertainty as what we've already, these extraordinary challenges at the moment. to the extent that inflation comes in higher and more persistent, then that we'll be prepared to be more aggressively than by raising federal rates more than 25 basis points at a meeting or meetings. I'm just ecstatic. I am ecstatic. You cannot see my happiness on my face more. Jay Powell basically said the first FOMC meeting in just a few days from now, we're getting a quarter basis point increase, which is absolutely perfect. Remember, we had two possibilities, half or a quarter. Half is more aggressive, a quarter is more cautious. Everyone was worried because we were looking at maybe half before Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. And that, in the event of what's happening now into almost week 2 of the battle on the ground, looked a little too strong, half basis points for Federal Reserve Chair Jay Powell. He could have said, I haven't made up my mind. I'm sort of fluid about the situation. He came in really great. I've never seen him with this type of clarity. He said, I'm giving you a quarter. Half is too strong. Too many world events going on. I'm giving you a half. I gotta love this guy. And guess what? I'm not the only one alone. Wall Street is trading up dramatically today, up 600 points, because they think this is the type of clarity we need from a very smart guy, Jay Powell, who says Vladimir Putin's caused a lot of trouble. I'm not going to scare you to death. I'm going to keep you at a quarter basis point for now, and we will see where it's going. This is huge for your benefits if you're on SSI and SSDI, because guess what? Joe Biden should make that phone call right now. So what does he do? Joe, make the phone call. Make the phone call, Joe. Pick up the phone and call the Social Security Administrator. You've been great on social media, Twitter, and Facebook, Purple Power. The Purple Power community is absolutely on top of this. Really push hard for Joe Biden to swap COLA for inflation. It's not like I'm creating the wheel here, folks. He put it in his campaign promises. He put it on joebiden.com. It's still there in his transition papers from president-elect to president. Swapping out COLA with inflation is big because why? You're on benefits and you need a little bit more money now. At the time he wrote in November 2020, you didn't have inflation. You didn't have runaway gasoline prices. You need it right now. And he can do this. This is very simple. It's not something that's taking money from something else. It has nothing negative about it. It's all perfect. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call the Social Security Administrator and say, replace COLA with inflation, and then your benefits go up $200 a month right now, and then potentially another $100 later this year if inflation is tracking about 4%. It's very easy. It's absolutely incredible. Now, what is also at issue right now? And I'm going to feature this more tonight on Evenings LA during that special 5 o'clock 1 hour broadcast. But boy, folks, gasoline, Brent crude is out of control. Every single time I prepare to go on camera with 8 hours of preparation and research and everything, I have to look at the number. I stare and I think, did I read that right? Did I read that right? Vladimir Putin's active aggression when he first invaded Ukraine caused the price of gasoline, which is something that impacts you whether you own a car or don't own a car, whether you drive or don't drive, brought it initially from about $1 to $100 to $101. Well, guess what? The price of gasoline today is surging. How bad is it right now? At the time of this broadcast, well, let me take it back a notch. Yesterday's morning's LA broadcast at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, live on air, the price of Brent crude had surged to about 105 from 101. By evening's LA, it was surging even higher last night. Where we right now at almost noontime, Pacific Standard Time, during the time of this broadcast, Brent crude at the moment is trending at 106 to 113. Folks, we've gone up $13 in 24 hours. At the time of this broadcast, minutes before I went on air, I checked it, it's 107. So it's sort of in the middle or the low end of today's numbers. But it surged as high as 113 today. This is just incredible. Now, how do we deal with the situation and what's at issue at hand? The issue at hand is that you can't have gasoline out of control, because if you have gasoline out of control, with gasoline as my backdrop, I didn't intend to put oil rigs as my backdrop, but that just accidentally happened. Gasoline out of control. The situation is that what's going to happen is world economies will stumble. You cannot have gasoline out of control. Gasoline out of control means the following. It means that recession, unemployment, stagflation, and other major economic forces could entangle not just this country, but other countries. And what happened last night during the State of the Union address? What happened after the State of the Union address? And what is my commentary on the situation as well? I'll feature that a little bit more tonight on Evenings LA, but let me go over details at issue right now. It's a very big tug of war. We, as a country, can produce more gasoline. We don't, because there's a push and pull between progressive and moderate Democrats as to whether we should be on electric vehicles or on gasoline vehicles, whether we should produce more energy or produce less energy. In a time of war, which we're not in, but we are impacted by it, we should be potentially producing a little bit more gasoline, store it, and then pull back thereafter. It's a temporary situation. We've been dealing with the climate for many, many years. We can deal with the climate in 6 months or 4 months or 3 weeks when the situation of Vladimir Putin settles down. We need a little bit more gasoline at the moment. And we also need it for our ally nations. Our ally nations are very dependent upon the gasoline. And Vladimir Putin understands this equation. Vladimir Putin understands that as soon as the United States announced those incredible sanctions, which are working great against this country, that his gasoline would not be provided to neighboring countries. Well, the issue at hand is that those neighboring countries are now struggling, and they'll struggle first before we do because they have less gasoline stored. Italy has more olive oil stored than Brent oil. So they're going to struggle really badly. Now, let's go back to what's going on the battlefront in Ukraine right now. For more of these incredible details, and boy, I have lots of quotes from Jay Powell, the President of the United States, and the situation on Brent Crude and Zelensky. It's all tonight on that Evenings LA at 5 o'clock broadcast across the board. What you need to know on the battleground in Russia and Ukraine right now is it's a very, very fluid situation. The initial approach by Vladimir Putin was to think that he could deploy a certain number of troops and that sort of walk in and get things done. That didn't work. And his deployment was about 50,000 troops, of which those apparent 50,000 Russian troops didn't even really know that they were being sent on that purpose. Many of these Russian troops that were then captured by Ukraine said, I thought I was on a training mission. What are you talking about? Back in Russia at the same time, many Russian citizens initially in the first few days didn't even know this was happening because the Russian propaganda machine is not telling Russians that this act of aggression is even occurring. So what happened was a lot of people didn't know it, and people who were using the old-fashioned way, the telephone, saying, do you know what's happening in Ukraine? What? Yeah, this is what's happening in Ukraine. So suddenly that started to swirl. What's happening right now? An envoy of tankers, Russian tankers, detailed on this channel for the last 2 days of 28, 30-something miles outside of town, has been on the side of the road. They're out of gasoline. They have 5 to 50, I don't know, it's 5 days, no, I think it's 5-week-old food. It's incredibly stale food. They have no food. They have no gasoline. Some of these people didn't think they were even doing anything but on a training mission. Very, very young kids. They really didn't sign up to do this. And they're stranded there. The sieges against the individual cities is escalating in Ukraine tonight. But when we turn to the battle, there is really 2 issues at hand, which have not formulated yet. The in-city battle that has not happened face-to-face, and the worry that we may have strikes against cities. The strikes is the big worry. That has not happened. And the face-to-face combat is very, very, is very, very a high-stakes issue. Reporters on the scene in Ukraine say that no man of adult age has left the town, of any town, and is ready to battle every single invading Russian forces. By number alone, that's more Ukrainians than Russians. Vladimir Putin has not deployed enough Russian soldiers. So that alone works to not allow Vladimir Putin to potentially take any town. Taking town, he may not be able to even hold a town. At the moment, he hasn't even gotten even close to even taking a town. And by pure numbers, he's outnumbered because so many Ukrainians have stand up and said, I'm ready, men and even sometimes women, ready to stand up and stop any aggression against his towns. That is face-to-face combat. That has not happened yet. That has not happened yet. The next 48 hours could be very telling. Then the concern about airstrikes is also very unsettling at the moment. That has not really ramped up. One of the best comments I heard was, I think, by General Petraeus, who, as you know, is an American and led one of the major victories for the Western alliances in the last 10 years. He said that you really don't see Vladimir Putin doing this well, winning, or getting anything out of it. But you want to get someone to get to him sensibly so that he can exit out of this before he feels like a cornered cat and that he does something drastic. And that is where he talks about, forgive me if I give her title wrong, former head of Germany, Merkel. He wants Merkel to come in and say, Putin, step back. This is ridiculous. Just step back and step aside. This is not sensible. You want that event to happen in the next few days before this guy gets a little bit too anxious and ramps it up for a way in which it's a level that is going to cause enormous casualties. This situation as well with Zelensky, the president of the United States, here in the United States is unfolding by the moment. So the United States has dedicated more resources. Our troops are not on the ground in Ukraine. I want to make that clear because viewers always ask me, where are our troops? Our troops are safe in the NATO countries, protecting the NATO alliance. Our help for refugees has been, in my opinion, insufficient. Refugees are flooding. We're at 500,000 yesterday. I haven't checked the number today. It could be over a million. I mean, some of these towns have over 3 million people. And the border is not, hundreds of hours away by train. So we could be at millions of refugees in just a few days. The effort by the UN has been slow. The effort to get funding in the ground in Ukraine has been slow. And we need to do more as an international organization for human rights when things happen. We can't be bogged down in paperwork. We need to be on the ground with our armed service people in Hungary, which is a peaceful environment, building up places for these mothers and these children and pregnant, which gives them safe and security as they fled an horrible act of aggression. We need to do more about that right now than we're doing. Meantime, there are several different groups that could be doing things, and their element not to do things is not pleasing either the Purple Power, the community of this channel, or myself. The first group that's doing nothing is Congress. Congress should be ashamed of themselves. Congress has done nothing. Our United States Congress has done nothing. Have they passed anything? Even humanitarian aid? No. Have they passed anything that sends assistance to the battleground in Ukraine? No. It's all coming from the White House, from the executive branch. It was very hard for me to watch the State of the Union address last night. Why? Because you had all these legislators who get very big checks as senators and House members sitting there with that big grin on their face, whether Republican or Democrat. And I thought to myself, what have you done for Ukraine in the last 2 weeks? I mean, I featured Ukraine on this channel, the issue about this in October. I was featuring Russia and Ukraine as a subject matter on this channel, and a big subject matter starting in October of last year. They knew it before I knew it. They have intelligence briefings. What have they done? I'm not happy. And that's why it was very hard for me to watch the State of the Union address last night. Now, where are we across the board? The next 24 hours may be very big. And they may be very big because we don't know if a stalled envoy that gets its run on the press every 10 seconds will turn into something other than that in the next few days. And that will suddenly turn into something totally different. At issue is precision attacks. Precision attacks was warned by the Defense Ministry of Russia on Tuesday. Of course, this is not Tuesday. This is now this is a day or so after Tuesday. And those precision attacks are among the concerns, with Russia having a position about 80% of its troops at issue, but has not deployed as many as initially anticipated. Satellite imagery showed that this Russian military vehicle is about 40 miles long, are advancing towards Kiev, and the satellite imagery shows them stalled. Now, many people believe that we should be going, not us, but the Ukrainian military should be going right against up to them and disabling them before they get any closer into those towns. This is a level that is very fluid across the board. Let me jump on the live chat and see if some of your comments. Drop your comments about what you think about the situation, whether it's humanitarian aid, whether it is human rights issues, whether it's the quietness of Congress. There is Colleen. Elliot, absolutely correct. There's Georgia Peach. Hello, Elliot. I really want to thank whatever algorithm is at issue today, because I was watching the live chat when I was just talking to you, and sometimes it holds hashtags and doesn't let them post. Anna was posting some really good hashtags, and I'm glad that they were able to post and without having me declare them. So there they are right now. I stand with Ukraine. Hashtag I stand with Ukraine. Hashtag pray for Ukraine. Hashtag stop Putin. Stop Russia. Russian oligarchs. There's a big new series of stories out today about the Russian oligarchs. It's exactly what you want to have happen. I'm not going to cover on this channel because it's a dicey subject, but the U.S. government's going after their assets, basically. Ukraine heroes and Putin war criminal. Great hashtags for Anne. Olivia says a whole new movement needs to start immediately. These people need help fast. So many people's lives are at stake. Yes, I mean, you are running for your home. You're running to a place that you may have never been, Hungary, for example, and you arrive there. You may not know anyone. You may be pregnant. May have medical issues. What do you do? And these organizations, UN, NATO, have trillions and trillions of dollars, funded by countries that have trillions and trillions of dollars. Can't get some troops on the ground there to help them? Can't get some tents, can't get some more resources. The Hungarian government has done absolutely wonderful stuff. It should not be the entire burden of the Hungarian government. Poland, the Polish government. The Polish government has done incredible stuff. Sorry about that misstatement there. The Polish government, people are fleeing into Poland, and Poland has done everything. Where are these other countries really helping across the board? Our economies come across the globe. They need help right away, says Olivia. Lorraine says the history of Ukraine needs to be read. Absolutely. It absolutely does need to be read. Erwin, how can Russia have so much control over life in Ukraine and finances over here? That's a really good question. So Russia does not have any control over life in Ukraine, whether it's physical life or any type of financial life. Russia's impact on world economies is because of oil. Countries produce oil if they have it, or they buy it, or they store it. Some countries, like Italy, cannot produce much oil. They don't have a lot of oil wells, so they buy it. And that is how countries become financially dependent upon a country that provides them oil. They don't have to get it from Russia. They can get oil from Venezuela. They can get oil from Japan, and that is going to be featured tonight on Evenings Are Light at 5 o'clock. There's ways for countries to pivot, and that's part of the Western alliances. The purpose of the Western alliances is to say, hey, we have other ways to get the oils realigned, get them realigned so that countries like Italy can no longer be dependent upon the situation across the board. Coming up next is the 1 o'clock Afternoons LA edition, and then a brand new Afternoons LA at 3 o'clock. The 5 o'clock show is the one you don't want to miss. The 1 hour special report, the latest details of what's happening with your money. I'll be going over more about what happened on the State of the Union address last night. It was great news about Build Back Better Act. Then your big money from CR for stimulus, and then SS300. I'll go more into those incredible comments from Jay Powell that came in just minutes ago. Good news, as he's not giving a half basis point interest rate spike in the next few days. He's doing a quarter. This is why Joe Biden wants to swap from cola to inflation, needs to swap from cola to inflation right today. We'll be looking at the price of Brent crude really surging out of control tonight. And where will it be by the time of that recording? 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All the latest details. It's a big day, and we're far from over. Thank you for joining me on the special live broadcast if you're watching it at 11 a.m. If you're watching it on a replay at 7 o'clock, then stay with me with Evening's Extra coming up thereafter. I stand with Ukraine. Beautiful heart, blue on the top, yellow on the bottom. Stay informed, stay focused. Have a beautiful day. Keep on pushing, keep on advocating, keep on standing your ground. Do not sit down and stay here because the details are unfolding by the minute. Stay informed, stay focused, and never allow one element to gauge where you're going. Do what you got to do and do it right. And stay with LA for more.